Yes, it's that time of year when music channels, many of them, do a roundup of their favourite gear of the year. I love watching these videos because I am insatiably curious about what other musicians, yes, you, what you use, what you find inspiring. Now, I originally thought I might try something a little bit different and do the worst gear of the year. But it is the season of goodwill, so I shall remove my Grinch hat and mention some pieces of gear which I found particularly interesting and inspiring. I have been very good this year, and I have not bought one single piece of synthesizer hardware. I have, however, succumbed to the temptations of software. It's a lot easier to spend a few dollars or a few tens of dollars on a piece of software than it is to spend a few hundred or even a few $1,000 on a piece of hardware. Now, there have been a massive number of new hardware and software releases this year, so it's really difficult trying to whittle them down to a handful. In any event, whatever anyone picks, it will, of course, be subjective, and you may or may not agree with their choice. So with that in mind, I have only 4 bits of a gear that I would like to mention in this little mini roundup. Three pieces of hardware and 1 piece of software. You may not be surprised by my hardware choices, but I think you may possibly be surprised by my software choice. We'll get to that in a second. So let's start with the hardware. What new interesting synthesizers have we seen released this year? Well, one of the best and most interesting and inspiring releases of this year, I think, has been Groove Synthesizer's Third Wave. So this drew its inspiration from the PPG. There are lots of videos about this and all the gear that I mentioned on YouTube, so if you're interested in any of them, I would obviously urge you to go and check them out. So I've listened to a lot of demo videos of the Third Wave, and the sounds are just phenomenal. The instrument itself looks like a synthesizer, doesn't it? It is a top-of-the-line synth and has a top-of-the-line price tag to go with it. In the UK, it's around $5,000. Not a cheap option, but it is a flagship synthesizer and priced accordingly. So the second hardware synth, which I find really interesting, is by a small UK company called Udo. And if you've heard of them, you may be familiar with their Super 6. I have a Super 6 in the rack down there, and to my shame, I have not yet done a video which features it. I really should get round to that. But they have just released the Super Gemini, and this is essentially 2 Super 6s integrated into one synthesizer with some integrated features between the two. And if you look at the interface, you can see there are 2 rows of independent controls for the 2 Super 6s, if you like. Now, there are several really interesting features about the Super Gemini and, of course, the Super 6. One is the fact that they are binaural, what the company calls binaural. Now, this just isn't stereo imaging. Each voice actually has 2 oscillators which are panned left and right. If you don't use the binaural mode, then, well, the Super 6, for example, would have 12 voice polyphony, not just 6. And you can stack these in unison, all 12 voices, and detune them. You can get a massively thick sound from them. So imagine having 2 of these in one instrument. So one thing which I really need to mention about the Super 6 and the Super Gemini is the build quality. Everything about the construction is premium quality. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the Super 6 and the Gemini, because they are constructed from similar components, they are built from the highest quality components I have seen in any synthesizer. And the quality is just superb, from the casing to the knobs to the sliders. They have a really firm feel. They are solid. This is not something which is going to break or fall to pieces in a few years. These synths were designed to last for years and years. Now, Udo is a small company, and when we're talking about small companies, we often refer to them as boutique manufacturers. Now, when I hear a reviewer say, oh, this is a boutique instrument, what they really mean is this is vastly overpriced. Now that, in my opinion, is absolutely not the case with Udo. Some synthesizer companies decide on price using a how much can we get away with charging approach, mentioning no names, Korg. But this is not the case with Udo. It is a premium synthesizer, but this costs in the UK around £3,500. Now that is not cheap, of course, but it is not one of the £5,000 synthesizers which we have seen released over the last year or two. So if I am permitted to say that a synthesizer costing £3,500 is good value, I would have to say I think yes, the Super Gemini is worth that. It also has a ribbon controller. Why do more synths not have ribbon controllers? Now, if you subscribe to the channel, and if you do, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. But if you are, or even if you're not, check out the community tab. Over the last few months, I've been posting little polls about synthesizers and gear and so on. You might find them interesting. But when I make a post, you only get informed about this if you are watching on mobile. If you're watching on a desktop, you will not know that I have a community tab and I'm making community posts. No idea why YouTube does that. It must be losing millions of views to people who are unaware that their favourite channels are actually posting in the community tab. Anyway, have a look, check out some of the polls. You might find them as interesting as I do. But I bring this up because the last poll I posted asked what synth you would like to see under the Christmas tree. Now, I'm not sure if I am surprised by the answers or not. This is the current state of voting play, if you like. But the Udo, Super Gemini and the Third Wave are currently joint leaders. So I'm obviously not the only person who thinks that these two synths are interesting and inspiring. Now, the third synth I want to mention is the Behringer UBXA. This was announced a few weeks ago. It is available. I have seen so far 2 reviews of it, genuine reviews, not demos from beta testers. So you can expect to see a lot more in the future, I am sure. This is interesting for a few reasons. First of all, obviously, this is Behringer's clone of the Oberheim OBXA. Now, I've no idea what an original Oberheim OBX8 would cost. Oberheim's latest release, the OBX8, which came out last year, includes more than one Oberheim model in the single instrument, but that cost about £5,000. So anyway, Behringer announced that this was finally available. It has been on the drawing board for 6 years. Can you believe it? And the price was originally announced at around, I think it was $1,500 or $1,600. Now you could almost hear the sharp intake of breath from Behringer watchers. Behringer's most expensive synthesizer so far has been its Deep Mind, which was half the price. So I don't think people were expecting such a high price from a Behringer synthesizer. However, a few days later, Behringer said they had a special announcement, and they did have a special announcement, and they actually reduced the price by about $300. Now, in the UK, it was announced that this was going to be 899 Great British pounds. And as I'm making this video, I'm aware of 2 UK companies which are selling it. That's Andertons and Gear for Music. Now, when the announcement was made, they did have this on their site at £899. And I took a screenshot just to prove it. But a few days later, for some reason, they upped the price to $999, so that's £1,000. Now, I'm not totally sure what the price is in Europe or in the US, but in any event, getting an OBXA clone equivalent in the UK for less than £1,000 is a phenomenal achievement. So whatever you think of Behringer, I think this is an amazing synthesizer. It's an amazing price. A lot of people are going to be very, very happy with this. It is essentially a 1 knob per function synth, so that I find very, very, very attractive, as you may recall if you've seen some of my other videos. I'm just hoping that as, when and if Behringer's DS80 hits the streets, it will be at a similar price, or even lower. Who knows? So let's get on to the 4th item in this little roundup. This is a piece of software, and I said it might surprise you. There have been dozens of really interesting synths and utilities and effects and so on released over the last 12 months. But I'm not picking one of those. I'm picking a product called Stepic. And this is a software step sequencer produced by a really small company in Germany called Device-Meister. Now, Stepic certainly wasn't released this year, but they did have a big update to it this year, and I bought it this year, so I reckon that qualifies it for inclusion in this year's roundup. So what exactly is it? Well, it's a software step sequencer. Now, I love step sequencers. I guess introduction to electronic music through Edgar Froese and Tangerine Dream and people like that. They use step sequencers, hardware step sequencers, of course, back in the day to produce those driving bass lines and melodic riffs. And I just fell in love with the sound and the idea that they had devices which could generate these sort of sounds. Now, I have a few hardware step sequencers, so why do I need a software step sequencer? Why do you need a software step sequencer? Well, the Stepic is not a step sequencer on steroids. It's a step sequencer on rocket fuel. It absolutely is. The things this can do just go above and beyond what you might expect from a step sequencer. It is incredibly powerful. Now, if you are interested in this, I'm going to leave a link to Stepic's or Device-Meister's YouTube channel, and they have a 6-part tutorial series on it if you want to know exactly what it does and how to use it. Now, I have to add a possible word of caution here. If you are not familiar with Stepic and watch the tutorial series, you may have one of two reactions. The first might be, oh boy, wow, yes, and you're going to click on the buy link and you're going to buy it. The second possibility is that you're going to watch this series. You will not watch them all in one go, I almost guarantee that. Maybe you will, but you look at this and think, that is just horrendously complicated. But it is not. It is a video manual, so it goes through every feature. You can very easily and very quickly use this at quite a comprehensive level without diving into every single feature. So let me just show you the main interface. This is what it looks like. You have the steps here. You can adjust the octave range. You can adjust the velocity. You can adjust the gate or the duration. It has this feature, I call it a ratchet function, so it can double up some of the notes. There are random functions for each step in each area. You can set the key, you can set the scale, you can create a different number of patterns, you can chain them together in various ways. There's also an automation section where you can automate CC information. This thing is just unbelievably powerful. Now, I haven't done a video on this yet, I really should, but whenever I boot it up, I just get carried away trying different patterns and using the dice a lot, I know, but I just find this so inspiring, and if you like step sequences, I think you will like this as well. And how much is this? This is €39. There is also a Max for Live version. If you are unable to use it, you might want to look into that as well. Now, I just have to give a massive shout out to Device-Meister, which is run by one guy, I think, called Jens, let's say. Now, no, he didn't send me this. I bought this with my own money. But if you've seen some of my other videos, you may recall that I have a degenerative eye condition. I was a bit concerned that I couldn't read the text on the interface. Now, I know it's quite common, quite hip. Oh, that's not hip. It's not hip to say hip, is it? But it's quite common for synth designers to put dark grey writing on a dark grey background. And while this may look really cool, if you can see properly, if you can't see properly, it is incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible to read. I've even had comments from people with, we'll say normal vision, or normal people with normal eyesight, but they are getting on a little bit and they do need glasses and so on, and they have said that some of the interfaces of some of the instruments are really difficult for them to read. So I got in touch with Device-Meister, and Jen wrote back and said, well, if you press the F2 key, some of the text appears in white. So that was a lot easier to read. So I thought, oh, that's great. But he went on to say, if you like, I can put a latch function on this, so you can press a key and it will just stay on. So just think about it. This guy was prepared to make a change to his software to accommodate one person. So he said, I'll make the change, I'll send it to you, see if you get on with it, and take it from there. So he sent it along, and yes, it certainly made a lot of the text easier to read. It didn't convert all the text to white, but the bits that it did were a lot easier for me to read. Now, how is that for service? So I think I would probably have bought this in any event, but because I found it so difficult to read some of the text, I probably wouldn't have had as much functionality out of it. But anyway, I just think that is absolutely amazing. Customer service, tech support, whatever you want to call it, this definitely gets an 11 out of 10. But in any event, if you like step sequences, I think you will love this. So that's just a few of the products which I came across this year, which I found really interesting and inspiring. Let me know your favourite product or products, hardware or software, utilities, whatever. Let me know what your favourite products of the year were in the comments. So if you like this sort of thing, synthesizer, electronic music, maybe you would like to consider subscribing to the channel, ring the bell. Thank you. So YouTube will tell you when I post a new video, and click the big thumb. That is a big help as well. I hope you've enjoyed this little roundup. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. Bye for now.